Hello, it's good to have you join us on Close Flow. It's a pity we are just about half hour behind time. I'm sure many of you have been waiting, watching and wondering what is going on that we are not getting to meet yet another distinguished Nigerian. Please accept our deep-hearted apology. We just experienced some technical hitches here and there. But at least, thankfully, we overcame all that and now we are with you. Surely, you must have your writing tools with you and your paper so that you can also join the conversation, because as always on this show, the conversation will not end until you are a part of it. And that's what Close Flow is all about. Today again, we are going to be unraveling an international matter, a question that the whole world is trying to address. An impact that has a global meaning if all of us can actually buy into it and take action appropriately. In a couple of days, we are going to be celebrating an international day that is dedicated to celebrating some of the achievements of one of the genders inhabiting the earth. We will come to that as we look into the program. So we are looking at a world where we can imagine that we have gender equality. So there's no female bias or male bias. There's no discrimination against the female or a privileged position for a male. We are looking at a world that is free of all manner of biases, stereotypes, and discrimination. We are looking at a world that is diverse, but in its diversity, it remains equitable and all-inclusive. We are looking at a world where differences can be appreciated, can be valued, and then collectively celebrated. Now, we all know that we are individually responsible for our actions, so the way you see your perception about who I am and my perception about who you are actually individual dispositions. So we can change those biases we have mentioned. We individually, collectively can change those prejudices. We individually, in our homes, in our families, in our communities, in our nation, and then in the world, we can actually say, yes, don't allow female mutilation or female, discrimination, or don't allow for men to become only the burden carriers in the family. Stay with us and we'll bring our guests to you so you can also be a part of the conversation. She is the chairperson of the trustee of the United Nations managing victims of trafficking in persons. But she'll be speaking to us today on how we can break the biases. Stay with us.
Hey, beautiful, your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight.
Now reading page 3.
Experience unlimited superfast internet access from Entel 4G. Entel. Live more.
Thank you for staying with us. It's still close flow, and already you have seen the tip of the iceberg as we got to meet our guest. Dame Okole is going to be speaking with us on what we believe all of us as Nigerians, we want to be sure that we understand what is on the table. We are looking at the International Women's Day, and we have with us the distinguished barrister who is currently the chairperson of the Board of Trustees, United Nations Voluntary Funds for Victims of Trafficking in Persons. Dame Okah Donli, you're welcome to Close Flow.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much. And again, we'd like to apologize for the, as it were, endless technical issues, but thank God and thankfully we're able to overcome that. Sorry about that again. So we are looking at a world free of stereotypes and discrimination. How do you want to define that? Is that really possible? Knowing how we developed as humans, would that be possible in any way that we can achieve that?
Absolutely. Nothing is impossible with awareness creation, with education, with trying to change the mindset of conscious or unconscious biases against women in particular. You will have harmful cultural practices that people have lived with over the years that are extremely harmful to women. And it is possible to abolish such practices and to change the mindset of everyone to begin to understand and appreciate that women are equal partners in progress with the men. It is very possible to achieve that.
I love what you have just said, and I must doff my hat to you for that, because that actually is very aspirational. Now, what the issues will now be, how do we change the mindset? Many of us are already ingrained, as it were, with the way we see things or our perception about things. So how do you think we want to go about changing the mindset? Would that be from top to bottom or bottom up?
Yeah, you can change the mindset through education, through awareness, and through continuous discussions. We need to keep the conversation going. We need to keep it going, we need to continue to talk about it, with constant, talking, education, awareness, networking, getting people to talk, on behalf of issues relating to gender biases and all of that from time to time will definitely help in educating and changing the mindsets of everyone.
Okay, well, let's do a little bit of historical background. We know that the idea or the ideal of trying to celebrate the female gender in our community actually, we go back as far as 1909, when sometimes in the US some kind of campaign were actually raised. Now, as a social cause, and you being a barrister, being an advocate for humanity, as a social cause, do you think there's any peculiarity attached to women that is actually promoting or encouraging or in any way profiling gender discrimination against women? Do you see anything that is peculiar to women that is encouraging or promoting gender discrimination or biases or prejudices?
Did you say, is there anything promoting it?
Yes, that is about women themselves. Do you think it's something that women actually are involved with or they are exposed to that is encouraging or promoting that gender or bias?
The truth is that over the years, women have always been subjected to different forms of biases, whether consciously or unconsciously, even from raising the home, to raising the children, to even office work, where women are, for equal kind of work, they are not given equal pays with their male counterparts, So yes, and of course, a lot of harmful cultural practices like female genital mutilation, where women are made to think that that's the proper thing to do. and so many other biases against women. Women have always been, the ones that, are the receiving end. And sometimes they don't even realize that these are very harmful biases against them because of the way, they've grown up to accept it as, that is the way it should be. A woman should not be heard, a woman should not be seen, and all of that, So yes, so most times women don't even realize that there are biases against them. And of course now with education, some women do realize that there are biases against them, and we are at the forefront to ensure that these biases are broken and are made away with, once and for all. And we also need to educate other women who may not be seeing it from our point of view, and educate even men too, who are not seeing it from our point of view, to begin to, have a broader perspective of all of these biases against women, and to begin to speak, with one voice, believing that, being, a feminist, or, being in a part of feminism or promoting feminism does not reduce your masculinity.
Great. Okay, now that you have mentioned that, it is important that we also underline it. We know that in Africa, for instance, across the continent, with over almost 1.3, 1.4 billion people, we have the demographics showing equality, 50% women, 50% men. Yet women are often sidelined or put on the margin. So what is causing that? Is that again something that we need to correct constitutionally, or do we also need to apply what you have just said, go on the street and re-educate the minds of our people?
Yes, educating people is not a one-off exercise. It's a work in progress. So we have to, take drastic actions. We're very, very strategic in ensuring that these biases against women are broken. Of course, the Constitution can also help. Continuous education can also help. Raising awareness, changing the mindset can also help. So yes, we can, we can adopt as many strategies as possible to ensure that we break the biases against women as soon as possible.
Okay, let's look at if we can take action. Rwanda, for instance, is the only African country on the continent, or the African continent, that has more than 50% of the members of its legislative house as women. Now, do you think Nigeria can ever achieve that? Is it possible for us where in Nigeria, we have equal parity? I mean, we have 50% men, 50% women. But in Rwanda, over 50% of the legislators are women. Do you think we can get to that in Nigeria? Can we push that kind of envelope here?
It is possible if we decide to adopt meritocracy, where people who are put in various positions are put on their merit. It is possible to achieve that. Let us begin to start with merit. Women and men come together, throw yourselves in, bring your CVs, and then we'll take you on your merit. I think when we start from there, then we'll be getting somewhere. I think that is possible.
Okay, now as the chairperson of the United Nations body, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, how would you see that being situated across the continent, particularly now that we're celebrating women internationally?
Well, Unvtf is focused on issues relating to human trafficking, especially with regards to women and girls. They give financial support, medical support, legal aid, and all of that. Yes, hopefully.
So what she's trying to say to us is that, yes, there are hopes, there are optimism on how we can get all these things corrected. I just want our viewers to know that you must be connected to this, particularly our women folk. You know that what you are saying here is this: as we're going to celebrate International Women's Day, it is very critical that this element of prejudices, biases, and discriminations are actually dealt with. And like Dame is saying there, we need to let everybody know that we can take that decision by ourselves if we re-educate, reorientate our minds and our predisposition.
The UNVTF is focused on issues related to human trafficking as it affects women and girls especially. So yes, at every opportunity we raise awareness on the plight of victims of trafficking, especially women and girls, because they are the ones that are mostly affected. So starting on that perspective, if people are able to understand that most of the time, when it comes to gender-based violence, human trafficking, women and girls are mostly affected. So putting themselves in their shoes and paying more attention to them, would also make men and the general public realize the importance of women and the fact that women are most of the time, affected by everything negative, and that is the beginning of changing of their mindsets and putting themselves in the women and girls' shoes and
In the African setting, are we sure that women actually are not ranked or rated as very important because of the family? I mean, the fact that the woman actually must take care of the family seems to be a priority in most African homes. Would you see that as a privilege for women, or do you think, again, it's a discriminatory, disposition dealing with here? On the African continent, the charter that we are talking about, which should encourage member countries to end discrimination and violence against women, 2 countries have not signed that charter. For the benefit of good neighborliness, I will not mention the names of those 2 countries, but in the entire continent of Africa, just 2 countries have not appended their signature to that charter, asking us to end discrimination or any violence against women. But now, in spite of all that, though, we cannot ignore the fact that in our communities, in our societies, even here in Nigeria, we are still suffering, or we are still struggling with things like female genital mutilation and child marriage. I was trying to, educate our viewers, or to inform our viewers, I beg your pardon, that the charter for the that we have here on Africa on human and people's rights have not been signed by 2 countries. I did not mention the name of the countries anyway, for the sake of good neighborliness. Now, what I'm trying to ask us is this: by appending our signature to that charter, is it not possible for us to make sure that Nigeria can actually champion some of the positions you have taken here now?
Absolutely. I mean, Nigeria can champion because we are the signatories to most of these charters and protocols and so on and so forth. But the truth is that, it's one thing to be a signatory to a protocol or to a charter. It's another thing to implement it. We must make a conscious effort to implement these protocols or these charters to ensure that we are seen to be doing the right thing at all times. Yes, it's very important that we implement. Once we are able to implement all of this and put it in place, then of course it makes the job a lot easier.
Okay, now, can you help us profile, for instance? I know that for you, you're an achiever already, and you're already a pathfinder, and you have already set pace for other women to look at you and see how they can actually, you can role model, some women, or become like a role model to them. But now, the question is, how are we giving recognition to women and the excellence they have achieved across the field, either in Nigeria or even globally? How are we doing that? Are we doing that effectively?
Well, we start from somewhere. So far, so good. We've had people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, our best, who we put forward. We have people like Amina Mohammed. We also have people in the UN. We have people in the EU. So far, quite a number of women in all of these positions. So at least it gives me some joy to know that some of the best women are put out there. And we just need to continue to promote our women, not just outside, but even inside. For example, we need to encourage our women to go out, to the Senate, to the House of Reps, to the House of Assemblies, to take positions, in politics, in governance. We need to encourage women to do that and not to see it as a man's job. For example, who tells you that it's not possible for a woman to be chairman of a political party? We have never had a female chair in any of the political parties, but that's a very wrong notion. So women must even themselves help themselves begin to come out, put themselves out there, think out of the box, and forget about these conscious or unconscious biases against them concerning any position whatsoever. It must start with us, actually. The women themselves must start with us.
Dame Okah Donli, thank you so much. That is extremely brilliant what you have just highlighted there. The fact that we have not had a female chair of any of the parties, political parties. Very significant contribution coming from you. I thank you for that. Now, going forward on that, therefore, how would you now begin to look at the fact that even in our families, even in our homes, in our communities, we see this perception is still there that the woman should be kept in the kitchen and should not be allowed to speak up. Our parents, they find it difficult probably to deal with the girl child because they believe that the son should first go to school or the son should be the main achiever in the house. How do we now begin to help ourselves to even re-educate from the family upwards before we now take it to the street?
Yeah, we need to, education is key. Like I said, education. I mean, we need to ensure that girls and boys have the equal opportunities to go to school. We shouldn't put girls aside and send boys to school like what is still happening in some communities. We need to engage the community leaders and educate them. We must raise awareness on all of these issues and engage. You know, you see, I mean, for us to break this bias, everyone must be involved. The whole of society, every single individual must be involved. The whole of society and the whole of government at all levels must be involved. So we need to change this mindset through education, through raising of awareness in the communities, at home and everywhere. You know, education, awareness is key. That is the key factor.
Thank you again. Brilliant. And I must say that, yes, education and awareness and, of course, some kind of public engagement where we can go actually to the street and make sure that this information is shared with members of the public to let them understand that they have to take responsibility on how to end the biases. Then we are not going away yet. We will just give you a breather. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, the conversation continues.
Experience unlimited superfast internet access from Entel 4G. Entel. Live more.
We must dilate the eyes, we look for if they have cataract, look at the back of their eyes, they have glaucoma, you know, we do a full workup for them.
You will remember the giant stripe they will make them. You will remember with nostalgia.
We're going to be looking deeper than we ever looked in before to ensure that we close all the loopholes.
Every edition is an arresting conversation with distinguished Nigerians from various strata of the society, bearing their minds on how we can realize the Nigeria of our dreams. Join us live on Close Flow, Monday, every week here on NTA2 Lagos Network Center. Close Flow. The conversation is about you.
From NT2 Lagos Network Center, and we still have Dame Julie Okah Donli in the house. She is been quite brilliant, exceptionally brilliant, telling us exactly what the future holds for all of us if we can just discipline ourselves, re-educate ourselves, reorientate ourselves, and get prepared to play equal roles in how we define our world. Now, Dame, I must bring back to your table the fact that the theme for the International Women's Day for this year, we're looking at gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Climate change is one issue that seems to be trending in terms of sustainable tomorrow. What roles are women playing in how we manage our climate impacts?
Well, we have a lot of women groups, you know, a lot of NGOs as well. who are really interested or focused in climate change issues. You know, everyone, like I said, has a role to play. Different people are playing different roles. I know, for example, that there's so many NGOs and women groups who have been actively participating in planting of trees, you know, all over Nigeria. This has been going on for a while and it's still going on. You know, so yes, everyone has a role to play. We have NGOs that are focused on that, women groups that are focused on climate change, and they've been doing quite a lot of projects with regards to climate change, raising awareness on climate change, on pollution, you know, and then cutting down of trees and so on and so forth. Most of the time, women are usually at the forefront of issues relating to climate change.
Well, the reason why I haven't raised that question, Dame, is the fact that in most rural communities, we still have women using wood, as it were, firewood, to make, you know, meals and all that. And that seems to also include the fact that we have damages to the climate, we have damages to the environment, and even to the family, even to the household, and all that and all that. So our educational reorientation will need to go towards that trend also. Don't you think so?
Well, you see, when we want to talk about life in the rural communities, you must provide alternatives. Now the question is, what are the alternatives for the rural women? Are the alternatives going to be accessible and affordable? So this is where the local government comes in. The local governments, the wards, the councils, and all of that. They have a role to play to provide alternative means. They have a role to play to provide the awareness and the sensitization to the rural communities to make them know that what they are doing is affecting the climate and should stop. But the truth is, do they have the alternatives to provide them?
Okay, well, that may sound a little bit funny, but the truth of the matter is that it's quite painful. What we are saying is that if you don't have the alternative, then you cannot stop the current trend. Now, in projecting to the future, therefore, how do you see us managing this sustainable and secular economy that we are trying to build for a country like Nigeria? How do you see us, you know, occupying a space in the global economic agenda? How do you see us, I mean, from your position as the chairperson of an international body, how do you see us achieving that?
I am not an economic expert, so I really don't know how to answer that question. You know, I am more, when you talk about gender-based violence and human trafficking and issues relating to that, I can give you a clear-cut answer.
Direction,
yes. I'm not really sure how to answer this question based on economy. I really am not sure, to be honest.
Well, okay, I must take that back. Maybe I shouldn't just situate it, you know, economically, but I'm saying that for all of us, therefore, because you have asked us now, or you have indicated to us that we need to re-educate, we need to resensitize our people to know how to go forward. And I'm saying, from the global perspective, from the global office where you are, do you see us having any collaboration that can help us accelerate that that possibility?
Absolutely. Without collaboration, you can't achieve anything. Nigeria, for example, collaborates with the UN, the EU, and all the other countries, you know, in terms of, you know, for various reasons, for economy, for all sorts of development. I mean, without international development partners, I mean, collaboration with international development partners, you can't really get the development because no one country can stand on their own. So I'm sure when it comes to development in various areas, including the economy, there's a lot of collaboration going on between Nigeria, West Africa, Nigeria, Europe, Nigeria, and the rest of the world. Yes.
Oh, great. Now, so when we see that the positive turnaround, the next question will be that when we have abuses, when we have some kind of discrimination, do we have any structure for legal action against the abusers? Do we have any structure, whether it is an individual or it is the entire community? Do we have any legal reprimand that we can use to actually control or to arrest this trend of discrimination or biases or prejudices?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In addition to various legislations that have been in existence from time immemorial, we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. That is a law that is very friendly to women. For example, the VAP Act talks about rape, not just penetration. Now you can rape a woman by just putting any object in any part of any opening in her body. You can also violate a woman by performing the female genital mutilation on her. It makes it now a crime. Even in putting tribal marks on the face, cutting the body and all of that is now a crime. So yes, we now have some kind of respite. All you need to do is to report the offender to the police, and he or she will be reprimanded, arrested, and prosecuted. Yes, there's a jail sentence for that. There's also a fine for that as well. So yes, there's some form of punishment for offenders.
Oh, great. Now, the next worrying point will be for us now to make sure that to get this onto the street level and let everybody understand it. That means that we need to do a lot of some kind of public engagement. Now, if FGM, if we know that we can actually do that, because of children who have been abused in the past, now, are we going to advocate for some kind of compensation to be routed to such families who may have suffered in the past, maybe as a way of getting everybody therefore to buy into this new thought? Do you think so?
It is possible. I mean, if the victim is so aggrieved as to want to sue the parents or whoever it is that carried out these
abuses,
gruesome acts on them, yes, of course, he or she can definitely get some form of compensation if she decides to take it. But I haven't witnessed any victim suing for compensation for FGM carried out on her. But I think that would be a very good starting point to serve as a deterrent to other would-be perpetrators, so that they will think twice before even trying to attempt it. Okay,
great. Now, for the theme for this year, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, we don't have any timeline, as it was, spelled out in that thematic presentation. For you, as an advocate and as a very positive person, how soon do you think we can get to the point where we can say we have really, really, really addressed biases and prejudices in our communities? How soon do you see it happening?
Well, I cannot put a timeline to that, but the truth is that if we continue the conversation, because the problem we have is we start a conversation once in a year, when there's International Women's Day and there's a theme. We talk around the theme for 1 week, 2 weeks, and it ends there until the next year. If we start this conversation and we continue, we're intentional about this conversation, and we continue this conversation, on and on and on and on, and if we see to the end of this conversation, to ensure that we make demands, to ensure that we see changes, being done between now and the next 5 years. If we continue this conversation without going to sleep, I believe that something drastic will happen at least in 5 years.
Okay, great. I know you have kept sleepless nights yourself anyway, trying to promote so many social issues. So I would like to address one of those things that you have actually bothered yourself. You have actually maybe lost some sleep over that. And that's a question of how we can get the issue of the menace of irregular migration, human trafficking, and sexual abuses corrected, especially amongst our youth now. What kind of sleepless nights are you going through? Just making sure you can actually...
For us here, we do a lot of advocacy. Sensitization, awareness is key. A lot of people are ignorant. Some people don't even know their rights. That's the truth. So even a girl that is raped begins to blame herself because The society would ask questions, what were you wearing? Why did you go there? Why did you do this? So she begins to blame herself and begins to think that it was even her fault. She doesn't even know she has any rights at all. So the starting point is to begin to teach these children their rights, to tell them you have a right to A, B, C, D, E, F. Nobody has a right to do this to you, and that's the starting point. Teach them their rights. Raise awareness on issues relating to irregular migration, human trafficking, sexual and gender-based violence. Educate them and provide the level playing fields by engaging those who can provide scholarships to ensure these guys go to school. Free and compulsory education, basic education, primary and secondary school for boys and girls. You know, engage with the government, the state government, the local government. You know, so it's a huge task, but the most important task is to raise awareness and to educate the general public, especially those in rural areas. There's so much work to do.
Now, Dame Okah Donli, is it possible for us to actually make these issues you have raised here become like a political agenda or political deliverable program for those who are aspiring to rule the country? Is that doable?
Yes, it is possible. I mean, it's always been a political agenda, because the truth is it's always been a political agenda, because the federal government has shown the political will to end human trafficking, sexual and gender-based violence. So it is left for the rest of the government and the whole of the society to complement the efforts of the federal government by ensuring that they carry on with this fight to bring it to a stop. The government alone cannot do this. Everyone has a role to play. The state government, the local government, the CSOs, the NGOs, the media, everyone has a role to play. And until everyone comes together to play their role in their different spaces, then it will be very difficult to put a stop to it.
Okay, let's come back to your table. As the chairperson of the Board of Trustees, what exactly are you doing with Unvtf, and how can Nigerians lock into some of the benefits that you want to share with the world? You want me to repeat that question? Okay, I said
Unvtf is a trust fund that provides humanitarian, financial, legal aid, to victims of trafficking, especially women and girls. It has over 50 countries that has benefited from this, 3.5 million victims of trafficking so far. They give these grants, by way of small grants to NGOs in different countries to make sure that they provide these services, this aid, to victims of trafficking. Nigeria has benefited from the fund immensely because some NGOs that are in Nigeria have been able to access this grant. So what I as the chairman of Unvtf, is trying to do is to ensure that we bring in the organized private sector and high net worth individuals to contribute, to donate generously to this fund, and to also bring in the Nigerian government to also be to donate to the fund, because the Nigerian government so far hasn't donated to the fund, even though they are beneficiaries of the funds, through NGOs that are situated in Nigeria. So that will be part of my mandate, and that is what I'm still trying to do.
Okay, great. Again, let's congratulate you on that the next level that you have taken this your advocacy to. The question, therefore, will be this. Often, Nigerians will seem to appear to be over-dependent on either foreign aids, foreign help, foreign... What can we do on our own internally to see that we can change this narrative?
Well, if we're serious, it's very easy to change the narrative. We have the organized private sector. Most of the time, they are missing in action. For them, the bottom line is maximizing profits. But they must realize that they have a CSR role to play in whatever community they find themselves in. So if every organized private sector find themselves in a community and they give back to that community, if everyone can do their bit, we will not have to rely so much on foreign aid. You know, everyone, like I said, has a role to play. It is time we begin to look inward. We have a lot of rich people, you know, who are celebrated in the pages of newspapers, in magazines, but the question is, are they giving back? Because the country has been very good to them. Are they giving back? Are we making demands on them to give back without expecting something in return?
Brilliant. Again, I must commend you for that, for throwing the ball into the court of to corporate Nigeria, so that we can all be part of what the future of this country will be. I must tell you that really is great, and we hope that as you push the campaign further, as you push the envelope towards the private sector in Nigeria, that actually we'll see many more Nigerians benefiting from being salvaged from all manner of abuses. Now, in commending you, though, we now must come back to the question of how about government agencies? Don't they also have some sort of primary responsibilities in achieving some of these noble objectives that you have stated here? If we are going to have a sustainable future for Nigerians, government agencies seem to be the highest employers or the largest employers of laborers in Nigeria. So why won't they play some role in what you are talking about?
Of course, the government agencies have a role to play, no doubt. They collaborate with the NGOs, they collaborate with the private sector for those that are, you know, that participate in such projects and all of that. But it is not enough. The organized private sector still need to come out some more to work very closely with the government agencies, the NGOs, the foundations, and so on and so forth. You know, it must come together to collaborate and ensure that we're able to make an impact, and a sustainable one at that.
Okay, all right. So we will join you in that campaign. We will put it on the street so that everybody can begin to see how all of us can therefore be sure that we have a sustainable future for our children. Now, let's come back to this re-education thing, because that appeals to me. What level do we start this? Do you think we should go to primary schools, or we should go to secondary schools, or we should go to universities, or we should go on the streets to neighborhoods and all that, or we can even enjoy the privileges of traditional rulers in communities? How low do you think we should go in pushing this campaign on the streets?
We'll push this campaign at every level: primary, secondary, university, community leaders, market women association, taxi drivers association, road transport workers. Everyone has a role to play. The youth leaders, the women groups, everyone has a role to play. Community leadership is very important. Community education, very important. At the rural areas, we use our town criers to give out information, the town hall meetings, and everything like that. So we must start from the grassroots, take it up to the state level, to the federal government level. Everyone must be involved. Everyone must be educated.
Okay.
Everyone has a role to play.
Okay. Again, I must thank you for that, for letting us see where we can actually measure the impact of what we want to achieve. Now, another level of disproportionate impact on women will be in the question of education, and probably even access to funding. Maybe you have a small project, small business, and you want to. Women may find it difficult to get, access to funding. Can we also find a way to include these in what we want to correct?
Education, like I said,
initially, yes.
We still have to go back to the harmful cultural practices against women, where most of the time they are kept back and the boys are sent to school. So we need to go back to the grassroots and start from there. With education now, you have homes where male children and female children are treated equally if they go to school. But we need to go back to the grassroots if we need to drive this project through. We need to make them know that the boys are equally as the girls are as important as the boys, and the girls should not be kept behind. There must be free and compulsory education for the primary and secondary school children, boys and girls alike. It is important to start from there. We must train them. There must be equal opportunities for education or skill acquisition training, and of course for the rural women. I know that the federal government has got some social intervention programs where women are given maybe 5,000 or 10,000, I'm not very sure now, to help them in their small businesses. So interventions like this are very important, but should not be left alone for the federal government to do. We have philanthropists who can afford to even do that. We have people in the assembly, we have people in the local, the national assembly, we have people in the state assemblies that can also afford to empower women. We have the state governments too that can come up with these programs for better lives for rural women and even men in their various communities. Everything should not be left to the federal government of Nigeria, which has always been a big problem for us. Everyone must begin to see themselves as having a very serious role to play in the development, economic development, social development, mental development of women and girls in their communities.
Okay, Dame Okah Donli, best prize winner, from the Ahmadu Bello University way back some years. Now, are we seeing women being celebrated equally like that right now? Are you sure that we have the right wave of appreciation being shown to our women folk, considering what you were able to achieve at Ahmadu Bello University way back in 1990?
Well, I'm not really sure that women are being celebrated the way they should be celebrated, especially women that have achieved a lot. Like I said, if we begin to imbibe the meritocracy rule of doing things, where those that are, most qualified get the jobs, and all of that, I think that is the way to go. If you look well, even when you talk about those who are giving national awards, you find there very few women. And you begin to ask, when you see the caliber of men that are giving national awards, you begin to ask what is the criteria for giving them these national awards. And the ratio of the men to the women is, quite low and should be reviewed, accordingly.
All right, again, we must clap for you for that, accepting the fact that we have not done, well, we have tried, but we have not done enough, and so we should push the story ahead. Now, let's look at how we can actually look at the theme for celebrating women in this year, how we can look at that theme and bring it home to our families. How do we get our children to buy into that theme? That actually, if we're going to make our families or our communities to sustain itself and grow bigger and, of course, flourish in the future, we need to now be sure that we don't continue with these prejudices. How do we do that? Primarily from family level before we now put it on the street.
Charity begins at home. You start from your home. Every one of us, every single one of us, we start from the home. When you give out chores in your homes, do you tell the girls that it is the girl's job? There's nothing like the girl's job. The boys should cook, the boys should clean, the boys should work, they should wash. So you share the job equally between the boys and the girls. You don't make the guys to begin to think that they are more superior to their sisters, or that this particular job is meant for the girls. That is where this problem of prejudices starts from. So by the time you begin to make them know that the boy and the girl are equal partners in progress, then that is, with that mindset, they begin to grow up. But when you get it wrong from your home, these boys grow up to be the monsters that they become in future. They are the ones that become perpetrators of gender-based violence because they have little or no regard for the girls. They already have the mindset that the girl's position is in the kitchen or somewhere else. They begin to have the mindset that they are superior and should never be on the same level with the girl. So let us all start from our various homes, and then we can take it out to the society at large.
Okay, before we let you go, Dame Okoli, what would you like? What would you like to like a takeaway for all of us from this conversation. Yes, we're going to celebrate women. Yes, we're going to recognize women. Yes, we're going to applaud women for some of their contributions to our national development and all that. But what should be the critical takeaway for our viewers all over the world who are part of this Zoom conversation with you? What do you think should be the critical takeaway for all of us?
For me, I think that the men, not even the women, should be at the forefront of all of this. Because when the men and the women are on the same level with regards to gender equality, gender balance, and all of that, it makes life a lot easier. For example, look at what happened in the assembly. We have very few women there, and the men voted against a bill that would have been beneficial to the women. But if these men are he for she's and they are on the same level with these women, and they do not think that, being sensitive to women makes them less of men. First, it has to start from there. So we need to look for more men who are thinking, at that level to push this agenda forward for women. So we're beginning to look for more he for she's to drive this agenda, to begin to see women as their equal partners and be at the forefront of this campaign of women equality, and all of that to make this sustainable and impactful.
Incidentally, Dame Okah Donli, please, we noticed somewhere in some of these social comments, somewhere that often than not, that women actually also exercise some kind of disposition, this pull me down syndrome, where they don't want a fellow woman to be on top, or they don't think a fellow woman should actually be in charge. Is that part of what we need to re-educate our people about?
You see, for a very long time, the men have manipulated the women into thinking that the fellow woman does not want their good. That is just a manipulative strategy that the men have constantly used to poison the women, to brainwash them. Unfortunately, these women are falling for it. That's why we are not making progress. It is time for the women to say enough is enough. We are no longer going to be used by you men, because you make us to be so, antagonistic against one another, and then the men take advantage of that and get close to the women, because women are very hardworking. So you find out that a man wants a woman as his business partner because he knows that this woman has a drive, she's hardworking. So you can imagine when two women come together as business partners, the sky is their limit. So women, I'm just appealing to you. Don't be manipulated any longer by these men, because they don't mean any good for us. Men keep claiming, women cannot be friends of women. Men snatch their best friends' wives. What are you talking about? What can be worse than that? You snatch your best friend's wife and you claim you love yourselves, and women don't love themselves. Women, don't be used any more longer. We love each other. We must begin to work together. We must begin to work for each other. And together we are stronger because we are more in numbers. Let us flush the men aside and take over. That's what women.
I don't know if that's going to be the last word, but already I hope we are not already tabling some level of biases again that we need to break. It is important for us that just like she has advised us, we need to re-educate our minds. We need to reorientate ourselves. We need to be sure that there is gender equality all across the board. But now for your last word, we want to apologize again for the technical hitches initially at the beginning. So when do we hope to see you again? When would you want to come and address us again across the nation?
When or where, or what do you mean?
When?
When?
Yes, please.
Anytime I'm called upon, I'm always ready to address you.
Okay, great. So let's look at the next. Let's look at the next celebration of your stewardship as the chairman of the board of trustees, and then we'll now invite you into the studio again to come and talk about that.
That's fine. I'm always ready. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a good time we have had with Dame Julie Okah Donli, who actually has spoken to us about how we can effectively celebrate women this year. Yes, we know the theme is for us to create a sustainable future, but to get to that future, we need to break current biases. Bias against women prejudices against women, discrimination against women, all those things we need to eliminate. We have to look at a way to humanize our gender. Yes, she's female, I'm male, but actually we are both humans. Thank you for watching. For us, it is never over on Close Flow. The conversation will continue on all our social media platforms. So go in there, go and put down your own comment or your statement or maybe your query or question so that we can share with our guest later on, and then she can react to your comments. So thank you so much, Dame Julie Okah Donli, and thank you all our viewers for watching. For now, it's bye from us.